Fallout is one of the most remarkable franchises in gaming, which holds some of the most elaborate games of its time. Nonetheless, Fallout has strayed further away from what made Fallout remarkable in the first place, at least for a couple of the more recent installments. Since half a decade has passed for the release of Fallout 4, I felt it necessary to discuss these games in retrospect. So, how did Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 differ from other Fallout titles? And which elements went into previous Fallout games that made them revolutionary to gaming? Let's start with Fallout 4. There's two key factors I'd like to point out were absent from Fallout 4. These aspects are what made Fallout stand out amongst other RPG titles. Fallout 4 had the tendency to lack the freedom of choice and a dark theme toward the plot. And what does that mean? Fallout 4 has an illusion of freedom, and what has made Fallout games prior so fun to play is by just how much the player was allowed to do. There is no right nor wrong way to play those games, and aside from children and a select number of important characters, there is limitlessly no one you could not kill. Fallout has always given the player the choice to do anything. Fallout 3 serves as an excellent example. The player didn't have to do anything about the bomb placed in Megaton. The player could disarm it if they really wanted to. They could have detonated it. The consequences of those actions become present later in the game. The choice in Fallout is always the player's. Or rather, it was, with the exception of Fallout 4. Now, granted, these aspects do not make Fallout 4 a bad game. Aside from Fallout 76, Fallout 4 was actually quite an amazing game, and it's loads of fun to play. I'm definitely not saying Fallout 4 is as bad as Fallout 76. Fallout 76 suffered a lot more, let alone missing core elements from the Fallout franchise as a whole. They had these nylon canvas bags that Bethesda charged $200 for the collector's edition. It wasn't canvas, and the collector's edition of the game was poor quality overall. They as well implemented an in-game currency called atoms, and when someone complained about the $200 collector's edition being in poor condition, Bethesda decided to give 500 atoms to the individual, hoping that would smooth it over. Despite 500 atoms being worth roughly $5, which is barely enough to buy anything at all on the store. There was also a time Bethesda accidentally doxed their own consumers. There's several problems in the game itself, such as the Brotherhood still being in the game, despite not actually supposed to be in West Virginia until at least a decade later. The server would crash if players launched 3 nuclear warheads at the same time. Sometimes the game would crash for no apparent reason. Sometimes people would lose their saves. There was T-posing during the beta. And the aspect I discourage the most is trees. It's supposed to be a post-nuclear role-playing game, built on the idea of nuclear fallout. And yet, somehow trees seem to be more healthy than the ones we actually have here. Lastly, Bethesda, after all of that, decided to discount the game for being buggy and broken, instead of actually putting the time aside to fixing it, a week from its release. And there is also the most recent Fallout First membership, which allowed players to play on private worlds for a monthly price of $12.99 a month or $100 a year. Fallout 76 was a disaster. Ask any Fallout fan, and they will tell you why. Fallout 4, however, it's not as bad as Fallout 76. It's more than just a decent game. The game itself is beyond just amazing. The debate is that Fallout 4 lacks elements, concepts, and the ideologies of prior Fallout titles. Fallout New Vegas is arguably the best Fallout game by popular opinion. So, to keep it simple, and to make it easier for me to get gameplay footage, I will look at the first quest you play through in each of those games.
Yippee-yay, there'll be no wedding bells for today.
A Upon exiting Doc Mitchell's house, and after all the DLC loads, the player is free to roam around. There is pretty much any quest line that can be initialized at this point. But let me investigate the first quest after the tutorial, Ghost Town Gunfight. This quest is given when the player enters the Saloon of Goodsprings. There, they learn that Goodsprings is being threatened by a group of bandits called the Powder Gainers. From that point, the player is given endless options. They can talk to the Powder Gainers to help invade Goodsprings, which leads into another quest. Run, Goodsprings, run. They can help Trudy defend the town with the decision to either start the fight immediately or ask around for other people to prepare. They can talk to Easy Pete and convince him to give them dynamite. You can talk to Chet or Trudy and get more people to join the fight. You can talk to Doc Mitchell and get some medical supplies. And once all the Powder Gainers are dead, the quest is over. And keep in mind, anyone can die at any time during this quest. Hell, the player does not have to join either side of conflict. They could just blow them all up and be on their way. Now, compare that with the first quest for the Minutemen, When Freedom Calls. After leaving the vault and the usual events that transpire, the player can go to the nearest town of Concord. When roaming through Concord, they will find a group of raiders attacking a group of people in a museum. The raiders are hostile no matter what. The player cannot side with them. They will shoot the player on sight, thus forcing the player to kill them. Then Preston Garvey is introduced, where he asks the player to help them from the raider attacks. Find your way through the museum to find the last of the Minutemen. Once there, they present a plan to go up to the roof, get a suit of power armor, and push back all the raiders. There are many dialogue options here that again give that illusion of choice. One of them being, I'll help if I can, and the other, the answer's no, I'm out. And clearly these options of dialogue act as a choice. The player can accept to help them or they can decline. If the player says yes, the questline goes as normal. If the player says no, however, Preston talks about how hopeless they are, and the player is given the quest anyways. The game gives the player the damn quest that they explicitly said they don't want to do. And as I mentioned in New Vegas, at any point in time, the player could just murder everyone. While in Fallout 4, you cannot kill Preston, nor Mama Murphy, Sturgis, you cannot kill anyone in the museum. And I know what some of you might be thinking, well, it's a quest to join the Minutemen. If you don't want to join them, you don't have to do the quest. And the player could have just walked by Concord and do whatever they please. However, I could argue the same thing about New Vegas. Nothing is saying you can't leave Goodsprings and do nothing. Yet, it's the factor that they give you the choice to join Goodsprings in the fight or to join the Powder Gainers in the fight that gives the player freedom. Now, that being said, there is a lot of different choices to be made in Fallout 4. There are some tough decisions you have to make and factions to join. However, that being said, the visuals and the general moral of the entire game doesn't change in the end. No matter what faction you choose or the things you've done, the ending cutscene for the game is the same for 3 of the 4 endings.
Wasn't the world I wanted, but it was the one I found myself in. The Commonwealth. My home.
There's many endings to Fallout 3, for example, and they change drastically. You can kill everyone by poisoning the water. You can save everyone by purifying it. You can sit there and refuse to do anything at all, causing the plant to blow up in flames, which turns out to be very anticlimactic, but the choice is still there for the player. There are many endings to Fallout 3, and all of them differ from one another.
That the lone wanderer learned the true meaning of that greatest of virtues, sacrifice. But the child stepping into the irradiated father.
As well, each choice you make within the game determines what ending you receive. The other concept I mentioned Fallout 4 is missing is vague, or otherwise harder to elaborate on. However, it becomes a little more apparent when you look at Fallout 76. Nonetheless, I first noticed it long before the release of Fallout 4. Fallout has always been dark. It's a post-nuclear role-playing game that is not afraid to discuss the gruesome, disturbing side of human psychology in the aftermath of nuclear devastation. Fallout has always had this ideal. The wasteland is supposed to look devastating. It's supposed to feel empty and hopeless, to make the player feel alone, just for the player to figure out that they are not alone. They can be butchered by a Deathclaw or a mutant at any moment. Fallout isn't a horror game, but it's pretty damn close. Even just by looking at the hidden lore of the vault, with every vault being a social experiment, there is some disturbing stuff you'll come by. Vault 12 was intentionally kept from having its vault door completely shut, which led to people breaking in and overpopulating the vault. With radiation leaking in, everyone mutated into ghouls, leading into the city of Necropolis. Vault 87, which was designed to look into and research the FEV, Forced Evolutionary Virus, to adapt humans to survive in harsh conditions of the wasteland. Some of the failed subjects became super mutants, which eventually broke out of their cell, dipping security forces into the virus, causing them to mutate as well. Vault 11, the overseer who had sacrificed himself to the vault, leaves the vault with a ritual that there would have to be a yearly sacrifice, otherwise every resident would die. The sacrifice was decided upon by a democracy. Life in the vault otherwise was pretty normal. After many years of death, there is only 5 survivors left. They learned that choosing no one to die meant that everyone would have been let go. With the realization that all that death was for nothing in the end, the survivors decided to commit suicide. All except for one. There is so much dark lore beneath the surface of Fallout. Fallout contrasts that dark imagery with playing 30s to 60s jazz, which held such a divergence between having people gruesomely tortured and having the excitement, the jolliness in the music. Why do I bring up these aspects of previous Fallout games? Because Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 were missing these. I think it goes without saying there's more to Fallout than an RPG painted with a Vault Boy as well a Pip-Boy. Fallout 4 had more of a sense of hope. I felt like Fallout 4 strayed away from these dark ideas to a civilization rebuilding itself theme. Even the music in the teasers and trailers sound symphonic. Here's a comparison of Fallout 3's trailer and Fallout 4.
They read the good book from Friday till Monday. That's how the weekend goes. I've got a dream of Smallville.
Fallout 3 has the entire trailer compressed of again 60s music with constant killing. Fallout 4, on the other hand, shows beautiful shots of the map with a symphony style of music, something that brings those uplifting feelings and gives that sense of hope. Fallout 76 strayed even further away from this, as the game was treated as some kind of fun Disneyland more than a radioactive wasteland with death painted on every corner. The trailers didn't feel melancholic as a nuclear Fallout is, but almost as if people would be having more fun after the bombs dropped than if they never did. And this goes back to that underlying example of Fallout.
War. War never changes.
In Fallout 4, it shouldn't matter if it's been 200 years. People, and especially the motive and act of war, shouldn't change. Having blue skies, green grass, and most of all healthy trees completely strays away from what made Fallout amazing. And sure, the graphics and maps are beautiful from a game's visual point of view. This is why I have a little bit of faith for the next Elder Scrolls. If Bethesda puts these beautiful graphics toward a Skyrim game, that would be incredible. But not Fallout. Never Fallout. There's one more idea I want to show to further more this argument. For people that have played the original Fallout, they will remember the bad ending for the game, siding with the mutants, the Master. If you haven't seen the end cutscene, I recommend checking it out now. There will be a link in the description below. Maybe it's just me, or maybe I'm the only one that still gets freaked out by it. It could be just the old janky animation of its time that makes it seem so unsettling. However, this ending is just disturbing to me. Seeing the player dangling from a crane and dropped into a vat of the FEV virus, with the knowledge of what the FEV virus does, it's just really dark to be mummified and dumped into a vat of acid. And then seeing the vault door ripped off of its hinges, seeing probably hundreds of people left behind and gruesomely torn apart. Even the Overseer isn't safe, despite having this enormous and almost indestructible machine gun. It's altogether just really, really dark. Fallout 4 has never given me that feeling of having my heart sink for a fictional situation or conclusion. And it still lies a great game. However, in my opinion, that is what made Fallout 4 stray away from Fallout.